During earlier lessons, you've seen me create fields in various tables, and as I did so, I chose a data type for each field using a drop-down menu of field types provided beneath the Fields list in the Fields tab of the Manage Database dialog. I used the number type for some fields, the text type for others, and so on. I'd now like to explain a little bit more about why databases have different field types and how the choices you make determine the functionality of the database applications you create. First of all, let's look at a simple and practical example. I'm going to create a simple test file that I can use to illustrate the first and most obvious reason why field types matter. I now have a file called test with a single default table and no fields or records at present. If I click where it says Create Field, a first field will be created, and it's been named Field by default. And when I click the plus sign at the left, a first record will be created. And I'll enter some data in a few records just so we can see what happens when we start to use the data. You can see that I'm entering some data that contains numbers and no text. So now what happens if I sort the data? I'll sort by the only field available, ascending order. And you can see that the order that FileMaker has sorted the records is not what we would consider a numeric order. 11, 12 and 13 come before 2, and 22 and 23 come before 3. This is what we would consider an alphabetic sort principle. When you're sorting alphabetically, all of the items starting with A come first, no matter what comes after the A. And then within the group of items starting with A, the second character is considered, and the sort order is determined using the third character and fourth character in turn. And that's what's happening here. All of the records where the value in the field starts with a 1 have been brought to the top. And then the records where the value in the field starts with a 2, no matter what the value is, have been placed next in order. And then, of course, the value starting with 3 and so forth. If we want to sort the data in a way that makes sense for numeric values, we need a numeric field. In this database, the default field was created as a text field. So let's have a look at what happens when I change the field type from text to number. Immediately, FileMaker sorts the values in an order that would make sense for a number field. If I add another record now, and I enter, say, 5, as soon as I press the Enter key to commit the record, it leaps up to its appropriate position, above 11 and below 4. But of course, if we reinstate a text sort, the number 5 will come at the bottom, not merely because it was entered last, but because 5 belongs above any field values starting with 1, 2, 3 or 4 in a text sort. So it happens that as well as using the data type to derive sort order, FileMaker also builds relationships using what's called an index of values for each field. And the index is built using the same kind of principle. That is to say, a numeric field will have a numeric value index, whereas a text field will have an index that's determined alphabetically, or rather alphanumerically. So when you're creating or editing fields in the Manage Database dialog, it's important to choose the appropriate field type according to the uses that you'll be making of each particular field. Bear in mind that some types of fields, such as a phone number field for example, frequently is in fact a text field and is expected to hold dashes and spaces and other characters, and therefore doesn't conform to behaviour that we would normally associate with numbers. So phone number fields, oddly, are usually text fields. In addition to text fields and number fields, FileMaker provides a number of other field types. Date, time and timestamp fields, which provide a convenient way to manage time and calendar operations, and a catch-all type of field called a container, which holds images, movies, files, sounds, and a variety of other media. And then, of course, there are calculation and summary fields for special purposes within FileMaker.